If there is anything that the year 2020 has taught us, it is that the world will never be the same. The days in which we live are solemn and important. They forecast approaching events of the greatest magnitude. Life as we know it will forever have changed. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. And there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. If any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus.
America has decided to go another way.
The new president-elect Joe Biden faces what may be the biggest...
Amy Coney Barrett confirmed in record time.
President Trump tested positive for COVID-19.
Death toll climbing among 200,000 Americans.
Calls for justice continue to fill the streets.
Today, the dire situation in Italy got even worse.
The first death this weekend in Washington state. President Trump, the third president to be impeached.
We built the greatest economy anywhere in the world.
2020 has not been a kind year. It's been a year that preyed on the weak and the sick, a year that claimed lives and tested trust, a year filled with division and upended by chaos. It's been a year dominated by staggering loss of life across the world. But it's a world still filled with
160,000 people have died so far from COVID-19, according to official statistics. Poor, rich, young, old, famous, the virus doesn't discriminate.
La abuela cohete. Todo nos corres, abuelita. Aquí estoy, mi reina. Aquí estoy. Orando, Señor.
I think right now, like any other time in our nation's history, we need God.
Probably we should be debating a bill requiring every American to attend a church of their choice on Sunday to see if we can get back to having a moral rebirth.
We're facing a long and tough battle against the virus. That's why we're announcing today that businesses will now be closed on Sundays.
All shops will be closed on Sundays. Lockdowns are being toughened because the number of infections is rising sharply.
President Bolsonaro instead on Saturday met with a number of evangelical pastors and decided with them that tomorrow, Sunday, will be a day of fastings and prayer to fight what he calls the devil of the coronavirus.
I have the opportunity to have a conference call with hundreds of pastors across the state of Louisiana. Last week we had such a call and received a request that I'm happy to honor today. So I'm going to call for 3 days of fasting and prayer for our state for July 20th through the 22nd.
Megan, Governor Reeves declaring this Sunday, December 20th, as a day of prayer, humility, and fasting.
As we close out this year, I felt the need to go to God in prayer for our state. You know that there is power in prayer.
This year, I'm again proclaiming a statewide day of prayer and fasting on Thursday, October 15th. There's no doubt that events this year, from natural disasters to COVID-19 to uncertainty within our communities, many Tennesseans have been left with a sense of unease and are feeling disheartened. For our 2020 day of prayer and fasting, it's my hope that we can walk confidently together before God as we seek mercy for our state and ask for continued grace over our nation.
Trying to contain an outbreak is difficult, particularly in the early stages. But making things more complicated, certain people are predisposed, without knowing it, to make things worse very quickly. Meg Terrell is back with a look at super spreaders. Who are they?
Well, on average, Contessa, one person with this novel coronavirus is thought to infect maybe 2 or 3 other people. But some are tied to much larger numbers of cases, and they're called super spreaders. They can play a big role in outbreaks.
As the coronavirus spreads and cases continue to rise, scientists are concerned about super spreaders making the pandemic even harder to control. Super spreaders infect a disproportionately high number of people compared to the average transmission rates. In some diseases like flu, transmission rates are relatively stable. Every infected person would be expected to pass the disease on to 1 or 2 more people. But a super spreader is an infected person who could pass the disease on to many more.
Some of these states reopen. Religious gatherings are emerging as hotspots now, with hundreds of infections linked to church services.
Rachel, thanks so much. A coronavirus super spreader event at a Charlotte church has turned deadly. We now know 68 cases and 2 deaths are linked to an event at United House of Prayers on Beatties Ford Road.
The Division of Public Health is investigating a coronavirus outbreak. They say it's tied to a church in Sheboygan Falls.
50 members of a community choir became infected with COVID-19 after a rehearsal. 2 of the members died. The CDC calling that event a super spreader.
We watched as people arrived at this evangelical congregation, the Solid Rock Church in Cincinnati. This couple about to walk in with a toddler and a baby. And then there is this woman and man arriving. The woman hugs the man. That same man hugs a woman inside. The arriving woman hugs the man inside. And then she hugs a woman.
The New York Times reporting more than 650 coronavirus cases have been linked to nearly 40 churches and religious events across the country, many over the last month. Linked to churches have happened in several states. Recently in Oregon, Texas, West Virginia, and Tennessee.
Can I ask you about your decision to go to church, to be inside that building?
I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Aren't you concerned you could infect other people if you get sick inside?
No.
People who don't go to this
No.
church?
I'm covered in Jesus' blood. I'm covered in Jesus'
But what
blood.
about other people who don't go to this church who you might encounter?
All of these people go to this church.
No, but you're going to be in places where other people
I go to the grocery store every day. I'm in Walmart,
What?
Home Depot, all of those
But you
people.
could get them sick from what happens in
They
the
could
church.
get me sick, but they're not because I'm covered in his blood. Thank you very much.
Health experts worry that even with social distancing, in closed spaces, singing and sermons can spread the virus through the air.
Churches are particularly concerning because you have a lot of people singing loudly in choirs. As a result, you have a lot of particles spreading, getting on other people, and hence increasing their chances of getting the coronavirus.
Polls suggest the majority of Canadians will, in fact, roll up their sleeves, but some will not. And at least one province, Ontario, says anyone who does not will likely face ongoing restrictions while the rest of the population gets back to sort of normal life, Laura.
Yeah, so this is this kind of futuristic idea where we actually have a requirement to get a certificate of vaccination before we can do things. So
yeah, some kind of a card that you would carry that proves you've had your 2 shots of the vaccine. Could be 1 shot if it is a 1-shot vaccine, but most look like they will be 2. So once you're fully immunised, you'd have what's been described as a vaccination card, vaccination passport. You'd take it when you go to do things that you can't currently do. Once those businesses or places reopen.
And so then what does life start to look like? Do we have to have that certificate of vaccination before getting on a cruise ship or getting on a plane, for example? Experts I've talked with say that is a possibility.
It's going to be really important for people to have for travel purposes, perhaps for work purposes, for going to theaters or cinemas or any other places where people will be in closer physical contact when we get through the worst of the pandemic. So yes, that will be essential for people to have that.
With the first COVID vaccine just weeks away in the U.S., this morning, questions swirling. Could businesses, schools, sporting events, or even airlines make you prove you've taken the shot?
Airlines, businesses, and schools are going to be concerned about legal liability if anybody contracts COVID-19 on a plane or in a school or at a place of employment.
Proof of the vaccine will be important in the new normal, used for admission to concerts, live sports, and other ticketed events, perhaps even flights. IBM and Clear, the tech company who offers expedited airport security screenings now, have been working on a new Health Pass app.
Several companies are working on these so-called vaccination passports, like Clear, IBM, and Change Healthcare, working in partnership with various airlines and grocery stores like Albertsons and Walgreens. Businesses and large venues could ask for proof of a vaccine from the app, similar to pulling up a boarding pass on your phone.
And Ticketmaster says it's exploring options like smartphone verification systems for vaccination status and negative tests.
Okay, so this is how it would work. For companies like Clear, you would link your lab data to the app. It would show green if you've taken the vaccine, red if you haven't. This is an easy, quick way to get hundreds or thousands of people into a venue, and these companies assure me that it is very safe, just like going through TSA.
Meet Jane. She's eager to cheer on her favorite team at the stadium, get back to her favorite restaurant, and even get back to the office. Health Pass is the solution for your business to allow safer access, while providing Jane the confidence to get moving. Jane opens the Clear app and verifies her identity with a photo and real-time health insights. Clear's developed touchless technology can take her temperature and confirm Jane is Jane, so she can walk in with confidence.
Question as you wake up on this Tuesday in the state of New York is who decides who is a public health risk? A Democratic lawmaker in New York is proposing a controversial new bill that would allow the governor to round up and detain individuals or groups of people who are considered, quote, public health risks. Yes, You're hearing me perfectly clearly this morning. The bill being met with some opposition, but it's not unanimous.
New York State Assemblyman Nick Perry is sponsoring Bill A416, which will be heard by the Assembly's Health Committee on Wednesday. The proposed bill would allow the governor, Andrew Cuomo, to detain disease carriers that the governor deems, quote, dangerous to the public health. This means Governor Cuomo would have sweeping powers to indefinitely detain American citizens, put them in internment camps, and according to the bill, Cuomo will also be able to detain people who have come into contact with the carrier.
I asked this government if the people of Ontario should prepare for internment camps. In September, the federal government posted a call for expressions of interest for contractors to supply, provide, and manage quarantine isolation camps throughout every province and every territory in Canada. These quarantine isolation camps, however, are not limited to people with COVID, but provide a wide latitude for many people to be detained.
Is rapidly building bed space for COVID-19 patients in exhibition halls and other temporary facilities as it faces a surge in cases. A four-legged robot dog built by Boston Dynamics at the facility could be used to deliver medicines to patients or take their temperature.
Singapore's police force is using patrol robots at isolation facilities to help officers on site. This patrol robot has been on duty at an isolation facility in the east that houses foreign workers for about 2 weeks. The robot can patrol and navigate the premises autonomously and transmit a 360-degree video feed to police command centres. It can also broadcast audio messages when needed, for example, reminding those under quarantine at the facility to keep a safe distance.
Hey, I'm Corporal Taylor and I'm working here in Auckland in one of the managed isolation facilities, and what I'm going to do to you today is just take a little bit of a tour and show you what we get up to on a day-to-day basis. What we're doing here is just a bit of a perimeter check. What we're doing is looking for any areas in which people can potentially come in or people that can exit out. One of our roles here in the managed isolation facility is also entry and exit of this perimeter. So what we've got here is one of the ladies from Executive Security that's going to open it so we can get into this facility. Thank you.
Premier, here's the RFP, and in the RFP it uses clear language to express that these camps can be used for a broad spectrum of people, not limited to travelers. Indeed, it doesn't even mention international travelers. It's just a broad latitude of people. And I'll send over the copy of the RFP after. So your government must be in negotiations and aware of these plans to potentially detain and isolate citizens and residents of our country and our province. So, Speaker, to the Premier, where will these camps be built? How many people will be detained? And for what reasons? For what reasons can people be kept in these isolation camps?
And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. The time of trouble, such as never was, is soon to open upon us, and we shall need an experience which we do not now possess, and which many are too indolent to obtain. It is often the case that trouble is greater in anticipation than in reality, but this is not true of the crisis before us. The most vivid presentation cannot reach the magnitude of the ordeal. In that time of trial, every soul must stand for himself before God. The season of distress and anguish before us will require a faith that can endure weariness, delay, and hunger, a faith that will not faint though severely tried. The period of probation is granted to all to prepare for that time.